What if I told you there's one family in Toronto whose hands rest on pillars of power, media, finance, real estate, politics, and whose influence quietly shapes how all of Canada works? You may not see them on every headline, you may not know all their names, but the wealth they control, the businesses they own, the networks they built, it all adds up. By the end of this video, you'll see why many call them the most powerful family in Canada, why some say they control the Canadian economy. Let's pull back the curtain. Who is this family? We're talking about the Thompson family, led by David Thompson, Sherry Bridson, Taylor Thompson, Peter Thompson, Linda Campbell, and others, members of this extended clan. Their main vehicle is Woodbridge Company Limited, a private holding company that owns a controlling share in Thomson Reuters, Canada's biggest information and media concern. How they got here, a brief history. To understand where they are now, you need to see how they built up. Roy Thomson, the family patriarch, began with newspapers. Back in the early 20th century, he bought small local papers, grew his holdings, and eventually established a publishing empire. Over time, as media changed, the family adapted. Newspapers, broadcasting, then finance information, then mergers, acquisitions. One of the biggest moves was when Thomson Reuters acquired Reuters, the global newswire, in 2008. They control or influence other key media channels, telecom stakes, sometimes public utilities, sports teams. Their holdings are broad. The scale of their wealth. Let me drop some jaw-dropping figures, rounded for clarity. The Thompson family's estimated net worth is close to, or over, 50 to 70 billion US dollars, depending on valuation. Sherry Bridson, a cousin in the family, owns about 23% of Woodbridge. Her net worth alone gives her a seat among the top richest in Toronto. Woodbridge owns about 70% of Thomson Reuters, which is massive because Thomson Reuters is not just a Canadian company. Its services extend worldwide financial data, legal, media, etc. What they actually control, the levers of influence. Money is one thing, but power? That comes from having control over what people see, what information they get, how resources flow, how laws are shaped. Here are the main levers the Thompson family holds. 1. Media and information. Thomson Reuters is a global leader in newswire, legal, financial data. It's used by governments, businesses, courts, journalists. What gets reported, how quickly, with what framing. The company has enormous influence over public perception. They own the Globe and Mail, one of Canada's major newspapers. That shapes national and local conversations. 2. Telecom and broadcasting stakes. They have minority stakes in major telecom companies. These may not always be day-to-day controlling interests, but even being a stakeholder in telecoms gives leverage in policy, regulation, infrastructure deployment. 3. Real estate and infrastructure. Through companies or holdings, they own real estate. Not only for office space, housing their media operations, data centers, etc., but investments that appreciate, influence land use, zoning, urban planning. Also, large investment firms that handle infrastructure, sometimes even global assets. When you have money in infrastructure, you have influence over regulation, public contracts, public policy. 4. Finance and investments. Their holding company works like an investment vehicle, putting money into sectors where information is key, financial markets, legal systems, tech. Because they are large, they can influence market norms. What counts as acceptable for journalism, for media ethics, for data flow, for digital rights. 5. Political and social influence. With wealth comes direct and indirect access. Donations, board memberships, lobbying, influence over how policy is written, whether that's telecommunication laws, media regulation, privacy laws, competition law. Also, cultural influence, sports teams, philanthropy, arts, universities. These are subtle, but they build legitimacy and shape social attitudes. Case studies, where their power shows up. To make this concrete, let's look at some examples. Thomson Reuters acquiring Reuters, 2008. This wasn't just a business transaction. It meant that the family now co-owned, through Woodbridge, one of the most trusted global newswires. That gives them access and credibility on the world stage. Ownership of the Globe and Mail, national opinion making, political coverage, policy debates, all of that is shaped in part by what happens in newspapers. The Globe is often where prime ministers, cabinet ministers are quoted, where national debates start. Telecom and media shares, even minority ownership in a large telecom company matters. When telecom policy is debated, net neutrality, privacy, broadband expansion, large actors get a voice behind closed doors. Investment in real estate. Real estate is tied deeply to how cities grow, downtown versus suburbs, housing supply, zoning laws. If a major family is investing heavily in real estate, their interests align with certain regulatory or planning outcomes. Why people say they control the economy. Now, is it literally true that the Thompson family runs Canada? No, that would be an exaggeration. But here's why many people believe they have outsized influence, to the point of controlling large swathes of the economy's flow. Because information is power. If you influence media, you influence what people know, what they care about, what they vote for, what they believe. That shapes culture, policy, consumer behavior. Because control of capital means shaping what gets financed, what businesses get investment, what infrastructure gets built. Because legacy and continuity, generational transfer of wealth, keeps them in the game over decades. It's not just one person making a fortune, it's an entire system. Because they play across sectors, they're not only in media, they touch telecoms, real estate, public institutions. Those cross-sector ties create webs of influence. How they maintain and grow power. You might wonder, so how do they keep all this going? Here are some of the strategies. Diversification. They don't just have media, they have investments in telecom, real estate, technology, finance. That reduces risk. Private holding structure. Woodbridge is privately held. This gives flexibility, privacy, less pressure from public shareholders in some respects. Strategic acquisitions and adaptation. From print to digital, from news reporting to legal financial data, the Thompsons have made big moves. Acquiring Reuters is prime example. Philanthropy and public engagement. Supporting arts, universities, cultural institutions helps build soft power, reputation, credibility, connections. Staying under the radar. Many members of the family don't show up in flashy headlines. They aren't celebrity moguls in the usual sense. But behind closed doors, they're involved in powerful conversations. Criticisms and counterpoints. To be fully fair, there are counterpoints. Not everything they do is sinister. In many cases, their business is legal. Their investments create jobs. Their media outlets provide important reporting. Some argue that concentrated media ownership may reduce diversity of viewpoints. Others say that competition, online media, independent outlets, helps balance things. Another point. Being rich doesn't guarantee ill intent. Many members of powerful families engage in philanthropy, support community institutions, contribute positively. Also, power is not monolithic. Governments, public institutions, regulatory bodies, competition from other companies, all these push back. The public has agency. Consumers choose, citizens vote, media consumers decide what they trust. So while influence is strong, it's not total. Here's the truth. Power, when left unchecked, shapes society in ways we often don't notice until later. The Thompson family is a perfect example of how wealth plus strategy plus stealth equals influence. So next time you read the news, check who owns the outlet. Next time you hear about telecom policy, think who's invested. And next time someone says, economy, remember, much of what shapes it happens behind boardroom doors, not legislative halls. If you found this eye-opening, push that subscribe button, hit like, and share to get more stories about power, money, and how our world is really built.